Hey, everybody, it's your friend James Shaw. Trust doing okay. Thank you for choosing to join us today. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to go all in on helping you because we got to take care of ourselves in order to build great businesses, help people in our community, be great parents and partners and people. And so we got to take care of ourselves, and that's what we're focusing on this month. And I'm excited to have Tyler with us, who leads a community inside of Keller Williams called KW ADHD. And we're going to unpack some stuff around this, Tyler. So thanks so much for joining us. Will you introduce yourself, though, to our community? Let them know who you are and what you do and what you're about.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Tyler Elstrom. I run KW ADHD. I've also been a MAPS coach with Keller Williams for the last 6 years. I've done 9,000 individual coaching calls with some of the top agents in the country, many with ADHD. I ran a team in the top 100 in the world for Keller Williams. And before that, I actually worked in mental health for 4 years in a clinical setting. And
you're passionate about helping people. And
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're going to talk about today is this thing. First of all, there are more people probably than we realize that struggle, whether they've got diagnosed ADHD or not, that just struggle with remaining focused, keeping things in the right place, kind of moving the direction we need to move without either just getting distracted or getting caught off guard or moving away. And you want to help people go through that. And what you've found is this is pretty common in our industry.
Yeah. Actually, it's pretty wild. We've got reports of maybe half of agents may have ADHD. And the regular population is about 10%. And so that's a pretty high percentage. I think we're drawn to this field because it actually is really beneficial for how we operate. We can actually be really good at it.
Well, and you found some of the top agents inside of Keller Williams are on this journey with ADHD as well, and yet they're succeeding at a really high level. You ran a top performing team inside the company too, but you've gone and talked to these agents, and you've kind of discovered what these 5 secrets of what it means to have a very successful business and yet be on this journey with ADHD, and that's what you're going to walk us through today.
Yeah. Well, I actually studied them in preparation for our event in Vegas. I studied agents with ADHD doing over 1 million in GCI, and there were 5 common themes that they all had. And this was months of research and interviewing. And this is the first time it's ever been presented outside of that event. It was maxed out. We had people in the hallways for an hour trying to get in, and they were crying because the fire marshal wouldn't let them in. And so this is the first debut of this information for you, for everybody here on the Pivot Shift.
Well, thank you for doing it. I really appreciate you doing it. Let's go through them then. So there are 5 pieces. Tell us about number 1, and then I might ask you some questions around each one. Go ahead, Tyler. What's the first secret?
One thing we did, I want to say, we made an acronym called GIFTS, and that's 5 letters and 5 things, the acronym GIFTS. So the first one, G, stands for Get Systems in Place that are ADHD friendly. Get systems in place that are ADHD friendly. And do you want me to expand on that?
Yeah, tell us about it. How do we do that?
Okay, so a lot of times as agents, we hear, oh, I need systems. And first thing you need to know is that you probably do already have systems, and they don't have to be this complicated thing. They could be simple. So one example, with ADHD, we can have 10 times the amount of thoughts. So we have all these ideas. Is when you write an email, like you have an idea for an email at 10 or 11 at night, it's too late to send. Just write it and schedule it, right? Get off your plate, or get things on a list, or what we call the parking lot. So when you're working on something, and this can apply to anybody, and you're working on something, this idea pops in that you're, while you're doing something you need to focus on, get a Post-it notes and write down what that idea is, and on your desk have what we call a parking lot. So every time an idea comes up, write it down, put it on the Post-it, and put it next to you, and keep staying on what you're staying on until your time block's over, and then you can go to your parking lot and pull the next thing. So there's like all these little things that really help our brains. And if something's not working for your brain, don't push yourself. It feels really hard. Oh man, why is this working for everybody else? It's not working for me. It's okay to play with it and shift it to something that actually works for you.
Oh, I think that's so good. I think we overcomplicate. Is that what we do sometimes? We just have this tendency that we think a system needs to be 72 steps, so maybe it just needs to be 3.
And I got to pay a bunch of money for it, and I need this really complicated thing. No, it could be just very simple. Because agents say, I don't have any systems. Yeah, you do. How you do your buyer agency, even if it's good or bad, that's a system. However you do your lead gen, whether you do it or not, that's a system. There's so many different, and so it's just adjusting it and tweaking it to make sure it's intentional.
Tyler, I absolutely love that, and the system doesn't have to be perfect either, right? It can
No, good
you
enough.
can build on it as you go.
Go for 80% of 100% because we can be perfectionists with ADHD. We can be all or nothing. We can tend towards that. It's got to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. I've got to win or fail. There's no other option. And that just keeps you paralyzed.
Okay, this is wonderful. All right, give us the number 2 secret. You said they're
Yeah.
gifts. So what's the
Yes.
I?
I stands for internalize your ADHD as a benefit because it's true. There are traits that can be more difficult that we have, and then there are traits that are really helpful. And so it's important to know what you're good at and not beat yourself up for the things that feel harder. For example, me personally, sometimes doing the laundry or cleaning or food, like even making food can be really, really hard for me. And yet I can go get 3 listings in a day. And so, it's okay to not be great at some stuff, even the basics, and then figure out where you're really good at and remind yourself of that when like you forget something, you forget it's your partner's birthday, you missed an appointment, you were late. If it's not intentional, you got to forgive yourself and then remind yourself, okay, I'm good at other things. I'm good at other things. What are those things? And then get yourself into those things and design your life around that as much as you can, because there are other people that are amazing at helping you with things that's their joy zone. And so you don't have to be good at everything. Know what you're good at, remind yourself, and really internalize that you have special gifts that are a little bit different.
It is a shift in focus. It's a shift in perspective. Conceptually, it sounds very simple. I imagine that changing and choosing to look at ADHD as a benefit instead of something you struggle with would be a challenging shift to make. Can you help us understand maybe some tactical ways on how we might make that adjustment?
Yeah. So one thing you'll hear a lot is one, ADHD is a superpower, or you'll see it addressed as like this clinical kind of disability. And the truth is that it can be both. And so that's where you want to get things in place for the traits that are hard and then figure out the good things. And I'm gonna give you some, because when you have ADHD, you don't have a point of reference. And here are some practical things that you may be really, really good at. So one, like I said, we have 10 times the amount of thoughts as someone who doesn't have ADHD. We can be less risk averse. We can be really good calm under pressure. We can be intuitive, a good sense of humor, very authentic, great ideas, thinking outside the box. Are you hearing entrepreneur in this?
Yes.
This is like the recipe for an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so really leaning into those things is important.
Well, and know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and put your focus on the things that you're good at and celebrate those things. I love that. All right, so we got the G is get the systems in place that are ADHD friendly. I, internalize ADHD as a benefit. What's the F?
Find lead generation sources that are within your passion. This is huge, and this is a commonality between everyone that we saw, is that their lead gen was something that was exciting to them. It was challenging. It was tied to a charity, a passion or a hobby that they had. We had one person on our panel who gave back over $636,000 to charity and built this was Sheena Sadam, actually, if you know who that is. And she built a truck that had showers on it. Then they would drive to people who were homeless and let them get a hot shower. And they would tie their business. And so if you sold a home, one agent, you sold a home, you sponsored a dog at the Humane Society. Another person, you could do door knocking and leave something to pick up canned food for the homeless shelter. Or like, let's say you love mountain biking. Maybe you're not doing a geographic farm, you're doing a demographic farm, and your whole farm is about mountain biking. Everybody loves to mountain bike in your city, and you have a Facebook group, and your client events are riding together or sponsored by certain outdoors companies. And so we saw that, or it was challenging. If you love FSBO Expired, or you love something that just feels hard and you're just leaning into that because we can be really good at that, that's when you really found the money. Because if you've got to do 2 hours in the morning of a routine to get ready to do your lead gen, you might want to look at the lead gen you're doing, because these are the people that would get out of bed and they would just go do it because they knew they were making a difference or it was fun. So there's an easy way and a hard way.
That's really good. Honestly, as we go through these are really good tips for anybody. Get
Absolutely.
systems in place,
Absolutely.
focus on your strengths, and
Mhm.
then pick lead gen priorities that you're passionate about. What about the person that struggles to figure out what they're passionate about and how to turn that into lead gen? You're a coach. What would you tell them?
So I would ask about hobbies. I would ask about causes that you believe in. When I get somebody that just cannot find a certain type of lead generation, a lot of times those are people that are really altruistic, where any thought of any kind of taking makes them like almost sick to their stomach. And again, lead generation is not taking, right? We're going to find people, we're going to help them and give them a great experience. And a lot of those people in their mind thought if I called, I was taking. And so we're a lot of times we're tying it to a cause that means something, or we're finding a way to give. And so maybe it's not tied to a cause, and your lead generation calls are all about caring about people and writing details about if their kid was going to school, if they got a new puppy. And then the goal of those calls was just to love on people and care about them. And then their touch plan reminded people they were a real estate agent. And so it might be that you just love on your people and you call them and their energy is slightly better than when you talked to them before.
That's really good. Tyler, you're giving great advice. All right. So again, to review, it's get systems in place that are ADHD friendly. That's the G. The I of gifts is internalize ADHD as a benefit. The F is focus on lead gen that's connected to your passion. So what's the T?
T, time block in ways that work for the ADHD brain. So here's something with this. With ADHD, we can have a harder time with task switching. So if you're doing one type of task that uses a certain part of your brain and you're going to the next one and next one and next one, and you're switching back and forth, that can take more fuel and be more taxing. And so if you have admin work, we want to do a block where maybe you do all the admin work in one block instead of going for emails. And now I'm going to talk to clients and do client calls. And now I'm going to go back and make something on Canva. And now I'm going to go fill these forms out. And now I'm going to go back and jump on Facebook and interact with people socially. And then I'm going to come back and do my clear to close. And then I'm going to go door knock. What you're doing is you're creating so much transition in your day that it can be a lot harder. And so for the ADHD brain, sometimes you may want to group those all together. So if somebody says, one person might say, hey, I do well reading 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. The other person might say, oh my gosh, that's too much switching back and forth. I'm going to bundle those together and I'm going to read on Mondays and that's it. And so having the permission to think, hey, if this is really, really hard, discipline is not something that I would lean on. I would first see if you can work with your brain and accomplish the objective and be flexible with how you do it. So that's what I would say with that. And then eat the frog first. That's something that a lot of people said. When your willpower is strong in the morning, do that thing.
Do the important things first. This is just great advice for everybody. Do the important things first. Mm-hmm. Switch tasking is tough enough on, in just a traditional sense.
Yeah.
That if you are on this journey with ADHD, it's going to be that much tougher for you. So, but it seems like to me then we want to really schedule that kind of knowing what a routine is and what we want to accomplish, in a certain time seems to be pretty important.
Yeah, and there's two things I'll add to that. So and this really shows on brain scans, when things get boring or not challenging, on brain scans, our brains don't always light up in the same way as a neurotypical brain. And so the other thing that's different for ADHD is you might have a routine that then gets really stale and really hard. And so you might have three options. And this is something I've seen work really well, where you have three different schedules and you run one for a month. And it might be a workout schedule, it might be a lead gen, and it gets stale and bored and you can hardly force yourself. And then you have option B. And then that gets bored, option C, and then you rotate and go to option A. So that is an option. Some people think I got to be consistent, do the same thing every day. No, you just need to hit goal. If you get your appointments that week, it doesn't always matter how you do it. So that's one thing I want to throw out there. And then the second thing that's really important is to give yourself time for your brain to play. And so we want structure, and we also don't want to be so rigid with structure, because we can actually, I know me, I can actually rebel almost like a teenager with that. And so, and Gary Keller talks about this, time block up until noon, and then leave your afternoon more open. Maybe you have 2 appointment slots, because with ADHD, we have so many thoughts and so many of ideas, and we have to pull ourselves back a lot. And you need to time block in a space where you're not pulling yourself back and you're letting that discipline muscle rest so it doesn't get burned out and fatigued.
Yeah, we can't time block every moment of every day. That would be way too stressful. All right. So again, those of you just joining us, we're going through the 5 gifts of an ADHD millionaire real estate agent. Tyler interviewed the top agents in Keller Williams who are grossing $1 million a year in commissions, who also have ADHD and have found these 5 gifts. The first one, G, is get systems in place that are ADHD friendly. I is internalize ADHD as a benefit. F is focus on lead generation that's connected to your passions. We just looked at T, which is time block in ways that work for the ADHD brain. So Tyler, give us the last one, the S in gifts.
Surround yourself with the right leverage. This is extremely important. And what we mean by that is, one, I said earlier in the call, sometimes I struggle with laundry, cleaning, the basics. So it's okay to get a meal service. That's leverage. It's okay to get a lawn person, a house cleaner. There's no shame in that. For some, it's not even luxury. It's accommodations, because it allows you to do what you need to do. And then when we look at hiring an assistant, this is extremely important. If you're looking at an executive assistant, it's knowing how your symptoms show up. Because I'll give you an example. For me personally, I can have more short-term memory stuff. That's with ADHD, brain fog. I can have a ton of ideas. And so I know in the person I hire, I want somebody with a really good memory, because they're going to remind me and they're not going to be afraid to poke me if I forgot something. And in an assistant, if I have really good ideas all the time, I need somebody who's going to say, hey, hold on, let me take action on that. So I can say, hey, here's this idea, and give them this concept. I need somebody really self-sufficient. And then also perfectionism. That's something that a lot of us can have. And so I'm going to look for an assistant that's thorough enough that can say, hold on, this is good enough. Let's send it out, and can kind of hold me back. So again, and then I want somebody who can talk fast too. If they're too methodical, I'm going to get bored. And I'm going to struggle. So again, it's knowing where your symptoms show up and finding somebody who complements that. It could be an incredible assistant for somebody else, and it's not a right fit for you, and that's okay. So you really got to get the right people around you who can complement you, and you can complement them.
That's really good. Thank you for walking through this. What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with ADHD, and that this is just getting through that is a big challenge for them?
Well, community is really important, and because it's a lot of people don't talk about it, and really the recent studies show that 80% of people with ADHD are actually undiagnosed in the country, and so I think community is really important. And we have KW ADHD. Everything I do is free. Like, we have KW ADHD for people who are Keller Williams agents. That's all free. And then for anyone not with KW, we have ADHD Real Estate Mastermind. This is our other Facebook group. This is brokerage agnostic. There is no recruiting. It's brokerage neutral, and it's free again too. So we have the calls there. And then I would say just reading about it and learning about it is really helpful, because it can pull a lot of the shame away. And you can look at, once you know what your symptoms are, you can say ADHD tools for working memory issues, or ADHD tools for fear of rejection or perfectionism. And then you can get a lot of different options and see what works for you.
It feels like to me a lot of the advice you gave is just good, straight up advice for anybody. And yet to understand that if you struggle with ADHD, that you can use it as a benefit, and how to work within it to highlight what you're great at, and so that you can succeed is a good thing. Tyler, tell them, I know you mentioned earlier, but where can they find and connect with you if they're interested in doing more through KW ADHD?
Yeah, I mean, our Facebook group. So it's again free, and that's how you sign up. Is you just join the Facebook group, KW ADHD community. That's what it is on Facebook. You can search for that. And then if you're not with Keller Williams, we have ADHD Real Estate Mastermind on Facebook. And when you join the group, you can give your email if you want the recordings and their notes sent out every week. We do dyslexia-friendly notes. We have closed captions on all the calls. We have 15 countries represented in KW ADHD, so we have 32 languages that people can put translations in on the Zoom calls. And so, yeah, we're looking to make this as accessible as possible, and everyone is welcome to join, whoever needs help.
Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. You've offered so much great stuff to everybody today. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you.